Hi everyone and welcome. I'm Rosemary, and in today's video I have some easy fall thrift flips where I'll show you the small changes I made to recently thrifted items to upcycle them into beautiful new decor, transforming these somewhat worn pieces, which have definitely seen better days, into fabulously refreshed pieces about to live their best life yet. I'd like to start with this gorgeous flat wire hanging basket, perfect for a door or a wall hanging. I found it hanging on the end cap in my favorite resale shop, and a great bargain for just $3. Then I found this vibrant Happy Harvest sign for 50 cents on a nearby seasonal table, and it's the perfect size to attach to the front of the basket. The basket did need a good cleaning though, so I washed it and then let it dry thoroughly. In the meantime, I wanted to select the florals for this project, and since I'm prepping for several craft shows right now, I have pulled out my entire stash and color coordinated all of the stems. Yes, I know it is quite the collection, but it will be almost exhausted this fall show season. Then I'll replenish again, first with end of season clearances, then thrift finds throughout the year, and then to round it out, a fresh pick of Dollar Tree or Walmart stems when they become available next fall. Now that the basket is nice and clean, it does need a little touching up, so I used some of this metallic craft paint in the color Rich Espresso. I chose this option for multiple reasons. First, it's exceedingly cheaper than spray paint, which at this stage has become so expensive that using spray paint now almost makes it more expensive to flip than buy new. Second, the brush application, as well as the somewhat sheerness of this paint, will give control to cover the areas I want and then blend into the areas I don't want to paint over, giving that less flat, more dimensional finish. In addition, the brown undertones of the espresso color will soften and warm up the piece, but the deep richness of the color will still blend well into the original black. Once painted, I attached the Happy Harvest pumpkin to the front using the rope hanger and then secured the bottom with some heavy-duty double-sided mounting tape. From here, I added some Spanish moss to fill the basket. This will also hide and hold the stems. For this arrangement, I selected some fall leaves, a pumpkin, some pine cones, fall berries, and some wispy stems in a harvest yellow. I started with some fall leaves that I picked up at Dollar Tree. I cut out the individual stems, added a little hot glue to the bottom, then arranged along the side middle of the basket. And here's what it looks like when all the leaves were placed. Next, I took one of these fall picks with a little gourd, also from Dollar Tree, and placed that in the middle left. Along the back, I placed 3 of the wispy harvest yellow stems, also Dollar Tree finds. Finally, the berry pick, pine cones, and pumpkin, which were thrift store finds, finished off the front of the arrangement. And then that's it, a thrifted metal basket, which had definitely seen better days, got a little cleaned up and then dressed up with more thrift store and some Dollar Tree finds to transform it into a stunning, boutique-worthy fall decor for a door, wall, or porch. Here is another door, wall, or porch decor piece with this thrifted pumpkin welcome sign. It's actually a pretty nice piece as is, with its large size, good condition, and then it has a beautiful graphic and metal accents, but it's a pretty store-bought basic piece. However, I think with a little accenting and updating, we can bring this piece up a few notches. First, I wanted to add a little frame to the piece, so I took 2 of the Dollar Tree long barbecue skewers and stained them with some Waverly antique wax, then set those aside to dry. In the meantime, I wanted to warm up and update the galvanized metal pieces, so I decided to create more of a brass-like finish by painting them with a thin sheer coat of this metallic craft paint in the color brushed gold. And I did that for both the leaf and the welcome banner. I wanted those to fully dry, so I turned my attention back to the skewers, which I had cut down to size to fit the sign. To attach, I used a thin strip of quick and thick Titebond glue, then clamped them into place to dry. I did the 2 long sides first, then I went back to the metal pieces. To refresh the edging, I took some of the antique wax on a foam brush and dabbed off any excess, then pounced the brush along the edge. I did the same for the leaf, including the leaf veining, then blended that with my fingers. For the word welcome, I used a paint marker to retrace. I chose to use a brown colored marker to again tone down the harshness of the black and warm up the piece a bit. Once that was done, I went back to finish the trim and attached the two short sides. Once the glue on all of the trim pieces was set, I went back with more of the antique wax and painted the side edges of the sign to blend it with the trim and finish the unfinished edges on the MDF board. To give this piece more of a custom finish, I decided to add some leaves, pumpkins, and a bow. To make the bow, I took 6 8-inch pieces of ribbon, 3 in green and 3 in burlap. First, I pinched and layered the 3 green pieces in a crisscross pattern, and then the 3 burlap pieces on top of that. I then used a zip tie to hold the pieces together, but did not tighten it all the way. This allowed me to slip the stem of 2 pumpkins from my favorite Dollar Tree fall stem underneath the zip tie before pulling it tight. Then, in order to hide the zip tie, I took one of the leaves from the same stem and glued it over the top. Before doing the dovetail edge, I like to spray the edges of the ribbon with some spray adhesive or even hairspray to help prevent fraying. From there, I folded the ribbon and cut a dovetail edge by cutting the ribbon on an angle. In order to get the leaves to stay in the position I wanted, I hot glued them directly to the rope hanger. Then I did this to both sides. Lastly, I added my bow to the middle with a piece of raffia. And then I completely forgot to take a before. So here's a snapshot from the video of the thrifted piece before, a nice basic but store-bought piece. And then here it is after the small upgrades and addition, which now created a custom one-of-a-kind piece. And I love how replacing the harsher silver and black tones with the softer brass and brown tones really warms up the piece and gives it a more cozy and homey feel. And then how cute is this pumpkin pie recipe wall hanging I picked up for $2. It does have some scrapes in the back and along the edges, but nothing that can't be touched up with some black metallic craft paint. Now this is a really cute piece, and it appears from the hole at the top that it's meant to be hung. However, the piece as is does seem a little small to hold on its own as a wall hanging, so I wanted to make some additions to increase its size and make the piece more robust. So first I decided to attach it to this adorable pumpkin patch decorative faux cutting board from Dollar Tree. I know, it's too cute to cover up. That would be bad. And I agree. And that's why I already did an upcycle of this adorable piece in a previous video, which I will link in the description. And that's why I don't feel so bad covering this one up here. However, to attach the metal pan to this paper-covered MDF board does present a bit of a technical challenge. If I just glue the pan to the top, the weight of the pan may cause the top layer of the paper to detach over time, especially since it's not attached that uber well. However, if I peel the paper, it's unlikely that it will peel uniformly, leaving gaps and divots in the MDF board below, which will present its own adhesion problems. Plus, since the MDF is so porous, it tends to absorb a lot of the glue. And since there will be areas not covered entirely by the pan, it's better to have that clean white finish of the paper layer peeking through. So in addition to the glue, I decided to affix the pan with a machine screw and bolt. This will support the weight of the pan and keep it from tearing the paper layer. In addition, I needed something to cover the hole in the pan. So I lined up the pan on the board and drilled a hole through the MDF to accommodate the screw. I then applied some E6000 glue to the back of the pan and centered that on the board. From here, I added the screw and bolt. I began to attach, then realized it would be better to first paint the screw with the same black metallic paint I used to touch up the pan. So I ended up removing it and then painting it, then reattaching. Next, I wanted to further decorate with some mini pumpkins and leaves. So I again took a mini pumpkin from my favorite Dollar Tree fall stem and attached some fall leaves to that with some floral tape. I then hot glued that combo onto the paddle handle, making sure to cover where I had removed the raffia bow. To cover the tape, I took another leaf and glued it partially over the top, leaving room to add a bow in between with this black and white flannel material ribbon. And then here is how it all came together. And then you can see when compared to the original, it's a far more vibrant and more substantial decor piece. So cute to add to your kitchen decor or really anywhere on walls, doors, or as a part of a fall vignette. And if you are thinking that little pumpkin on the stand is mighty cute, well, that's the next project. So I found this cute little woodblock pumpkin at my local thrift store for just $1.50. Now, while I love the beads, the tassel, and the thankful wood round, I really wasn't loving the bluish green color. So I removed the accents to prep the pumpkin for a color refresh. Before I paint it though, I wanted to create a little stand for my pumpkin to sit on, so I went into my stash and found a few pieces to glue together so they could set up while I painted the pumpkin. I then proceeded to paint the pumpkin front and back with 2 coats of Waverly chalk paint in the color Pumpkin. Then at this stage, my glued pieces were set enough for me to go ahead and stain with a coat of Waverly Antique Wax. Then once the paint was dry on the pumpkin, I reattached the accents and added a bow in the same black and white flannel ribbon from the last project, and hot glued the original twine ribbon to the middle of that. Then I glued the little stand to the bottom because, like I always say, everything seems to be cuter on a stand or with some feet, depending on what you're making. It was right about then that I realized, though, that I forgot to paint the stem, so I did have to go back and carefully paint that stem with some brown craft paint. But then I realized I wanted the stand to be a little higher and also a little more stable. So I went ahead and cut a piece of a large paint stirrer and then stained it with the antique wax and glued it to the bottom of the existing stand. And then here is the before and after, taking this thrifted item, originally mass-produced for Dollar General, and transformed it into a unique boutique look piece that is also color preference customized. Well, I hope you have enjoyed this week's thrift flip video, and if you did, you may enjoy one of these videos here. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.